Alright everybody, hope you're having a good Sunday, hope you're not too hungover. I wanted to come on and talk about um, a high profile case that I did, the person that I'd actually didn't serve prison time with, but actually know them from school. So the case I wanted to talk about was the Billie-Jo Jenkins case. Now, the person who was charged with this crime was actually a deputy head teacher in a school that I went to. I lived in England from the age of 10 to like 12 or 13, something like that. After my dad moved to a small town, Hastings, on the south coast of England. Now it's in between like Dover and Brighton, on the coast, know what I mean, seaside town. Now, this is a really well known case, like it was always in the papers, it was national coverage, you know what I mean? So I actually remember seeing it when I was about 14, 15 year old on the telly in Glasgow, you know what I mean? So big case. So wee bit of background, so as I explained about the early 90s, my dad moved from Glasgow to Hastings. I've actually got siblings who still live in Hastings. Um, so basically, when I went there, I finished my last year of primary school, and then after I finished my last year of primary school, I went to the school my brother was already at. It was called William Parker all boys school, not I mean, it's an all boys school, no lassies at it obviously. Something that I was really no, it was a bit, no a culture shock for me, but you never hear of that in Scotland, an all boys school. You had to wear blazers and you would get pulled up for no wearing it. It was quite strict in that regard, but compared to any other school I've been at, this was like a posh school. I don't think in Hastings it's a posh school. It's a state school, obviously. It's not a private school, but you had to stand up when teachers walked in the class and all that shit, like as a sign of respect and all. Just no anything I'm used to, you know what I mean? Um, so this guy Sean Jenkins was a deputy head teacher at this school. Now I remember him for when I went there, and he was always deadpan. He would never get angry, never raise his voice. I'd never seen him shouting at anybody, anything like that. Um, Whereas I'd seen maybe a couple of other teachers, you know what it's like at school, know what I mean? There's always maybe somebody getting into trouble, getting shouted at, whatever. Um, so a couple of years after I moved back to Glasgow, I think it was on the telly, just watching the news one day, and he was on the news doing um, like a public appeal with his wife, and I don't think his children were there. So basically, what happened was his foster daughter. He had this foster daughter, Billie-Jo, her name was, and he had found her in the house with major blunt force trauma. Right. Um. Basically, his story was she'd been painting the back patio. He had left to go and buy tops, like to clean paint stains off the patio uh, ground, because she'd got paint on the flare. And when he returned, he found her bleeding for the head. There was a metal tent peg line there, which the killer, whoever done this, had used this to obviously assault and kill this poor lassie. She was only about 13, and she was a student at an all-girls school in Hastings called Helenswood. So the backstory, her, like, I think she was from East London. Her parents, I think, had maybe addiction issues or like they were in a prison, so he's fostered this lassie who had coincidentally had the same surname. So the police have came, but see the funny thing is, right, apparently they found her with a plastic bag shoved up her nostril, which is quite pathological. Like that sounds like, to me, there's no rhyme or reason or apparent kind of hang me for that, because I do read a lot about like criminal behaviour, and that's no something that you hear every day with kind of murder cases. The reason for that is probably only the killer would know why they done that, because it's no like for a specific purpose. Like if you were choking somebody, you'd put a rope round their neck. Do you know what I mean? So there would be no purpose for that, because it wouldn't kill you, would it? Putting a bag up your nose wouldn't kill you. And let's say, for course, if he wanted to kill her, he'd put it down her throat so she couldn't breathe. Do you get what I'm saying? So I think he'd pulled it out or something, and she'd breathed out and burst blood spots out of him. Now, I listened to the 999 call, and Sean Jenkins did sound really, he didn't sound like upset, he wasn't out of control, he was quite steady and calm. Now, for somebody to come home and find that kind of scene, you would think they would be a bit more upset, anxious, or the place emotional. He was none of that. Now, obviously, if I was working for the murder squad, I would think that was a bit strange, right? But that's not enough to convict somebody. You can't convict them because they weren't fucking greeting, breaking down, climbing the walls. But obviously, it's noted, right? Any copper will probably tell you that any murder case you hear it, when somebody's acting that way, it's like, how's that? So, and obviously the family are obviously the first suspects as well. So he'd basically told them, I left to buy turpentine to clean paint spots off the patio, and when I came back I found her like this. But I think they'd retraced these steps to whatever shop he went to, and he'd went a long way for a shortcut, which is obviously a wee bit kind of suspicious, and I can't mind what reasons he gave for that. But they've done the public appeal, right? And basically what's happened is police have been quizzing the mum, Sean Jenkins' wife, and because they'd let 4 biological kids, right? The ma was a social worker, and I think she said something along the effects to the police like, if he's charged, I'll tell you stuff. Now that's a bit of an odd statement. And to be fair, there was no other suspects at the time, so who else are they gonna be looking at? They're gonna be looking at him, they're gonna be ripping his life apart. So it's ended up they've charged him, you know what I mean? But the odd thing is, in the months or years leading up to this murder happening, the Jenkins family had actually made reports to the cops about, so they had a vacant house next door. They stayed in this kind of townhouse, right? Typically a lot of the houses in that area, because obviously I lived there, I've walked down this street as a kid. It's just across from Alexandra Park. And the house next door was vacant at the time, and they had reported a prowler. They thought there was somebody stalking the house, which is quite eerie when you think about what's ended up happening. But I don't know if that's been somebody laying the groundwork, or I don't know, right? But it's quite scary when you think about it. And the police haven't really I don't think looked a lot into that, but I don't think he was doing himself any favours when he was talking to them, because I think he was coming across as quite aloof and arrogant and all that. And in a murder investigation, man, that's just not the way to be coming across, know what I mean? Maybe he didn't know he was coming across that way, I don't know, but they've charged him, took him in and all that, and his wife's ended up saying things like he'd hit them and sometimes he would lose his temper and all this kind of shit. Now, as any lawyer will probably tell you, that's no fucking grounds to convict somebody of murder. You need fucking forensic evidence, know what I mean? So the forensic evidence that this whole case basically hung on forensic evidence of these blood spots on his jacket, right? Now, I don't know if a lot of you will know this, but there's different types of blood stains, right? So the blood stains on his jacket were basically what you would call high velocity impact spatter, right? So you imagine you spray an aerosol gun and it comes out like wee tiny droplets like mist. Basically, if you wax, because of the velocity of the trauma, right? Like, so say you had like a baseball bat, a tent peg, whatever, and you're swinging it really fast, and when it hits the target, it causes like a spray, right? And obviously some of it you can see and some of it you can't see, but it just looks like, so you imagine you done an aerosol full of red liquid and you sprayed it on your wall. See the way that liquid looks? That's high velocity impact sparkle, right? So he had a fleece on, and he had wee tiny droplets or like embedded in his fleece. And basically the coroner said something along the lines of, the only person who would have that is the person who struck her over the head and killed her, which you would think is quite damning. But the defence came out and said when he found her, she was still alive, and when she's breathed out, it's caused this bubble to come out, like an air bubble, and it's just burst on him, causing the droplets. Sounds, I don't know, I'm no lawyer and I'm no fucking bloodstain expert, but it sounds kind of, on the surface, quite plausible, reasonable doubt, obviously, know what I mean? So he's ended up going to court anyway, and he was found guilty. So he's been sentenced to life in jail. But he's pleaded his innocence the whole time. And then he's appealed it, and fucking what ended up happening was he got a couple of retrials, right? And he kept getting found, it wasn't not guilty, but it was like it was getting, so in Scotland we have a not proven law, which is kind of like saying we didn't think he was guilty, but we didn't think he was no guilty, we just couldn't tell. They don't have not proven laws down there, but he was definitely no fun not guilty. It was like the case was abandoned or whatever, it was something like that. And it turned out that I think that the police ended up, or somebody reported, there was a guy in the area who lived or was working in that area who had a facet, he'd had a history of mental health issues, and he had a fascination with fucking putting bags in orifices or something. Now, that's quite unique. That's what you would call signature in a serial offender. That's what you would call a signature. So what I mean by that is, any crime you committed, you would have to do that to somebody. So put a bag in their nose, in their fucking ear, whatever. So you would, if this guy has ever committed any other crimes, you would expect to see that behaviour. Do you know what I mean? It's quite damning. But I don't know if he's ever done anything other than that. But apparently he's may have been had witness statements saying things like this. So quite fucking scary shit, man. And the thing is, Sean Jenkins was actually, he's been set free now. I think he doesn't live in Hastings anymore. I think he lives in Wales or fucking somewhere like that. And this lassie's murder's still technically it's unsolved, whatever way you want to look at it. Whoever done that is walking the streets, whether it's Sean Jenkins or some psycho, know what I mean? So, pretty scary shit. But you would if somebody was kind of, if that was if that wasn't Sean Jenkins who done that, you would expect to see similar offences in the general area, or kind of anywhere that person moved to. You would expect to see similar offending, because somebody with that kind of mentality doesn't stop unless they're in prison or incapacitated. That just carries on until they're not able to do it anymore. Do you know what I mean? It's not like stealing motors where you grow out of it or whatever. It's like fucking this is a different level of criminality, man. It's another planet. Do you know what I mean? So I think there's a kind of couple of documentaries and that you can watch about it. And I can't mind if he brought a book out of that, but it's what I say, is whatever way you want to look at it, whoever done it still walking the streets, do you know what I mean? And that's frightening, because obviously I don't have a daughter, but I have a son, you know what I mean? And I wouldn't like to think there was somebody who'd fucking killed a wee boy, do you know what I mean? It's a human thing, it's not like, oh, I've not got a daughter, I can't relate to it. Well, maybe on some level, because but there's still somebody's kid. You don't want that shit happening to somebody's kid. Like, I couldn't fathom. That's another level of fucking pain. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like, somebody killing your kid, especially inside your own house. The one place in the fucking planet you're supposed to feel 100% secure and safe. Do you know what I mean? So it's fucking scary stuff, man. So I thought I'd talk about that today, because obviously just came into my head for some reason when I was trying to think about like stuff to talk about, and um but and also because I knew Sean Jenkins, but fae going to school I didn't know him because I'd fucking done time with him and all that, do you know what I mean? So it was a bit, it was like the same kind of thing, but it was different, do you know what I mean? So I thought I'd jump on the day, do a wee video about that before I go and do what I need to do. So hope you liked that. Cheers for tuning in. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Catch you.